In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. Well met, my friends. Yoyston here with another video about our favorite stories. In most of my videos, I have discussed fearsome foes and legendary heroes, but today I wanted to talk about the humble land where two of Tolkien's stories began. The Shire was a land of peaceful folk and ordinary people, but also the land of courageous beings. Let's delve right into its history. The Shire was first settled by the Hobbits in 1601 of the Third Age, or Year 1 in Shire reckoning. The first two adventurers to step foot in the land were Marco and Blanco, whose ancestors had originally lived in the vale of the Andrian River, before coming over the Misty Mountains to live in Dunland and other parts of what was once Arnor. After migrating northwest, these brothers finally came to the green land west of Bree and east of the Tower Hills. It is speculated that the hobbits left the Vale of the Andrian because of the darkening of Mirkwood and the villainy of the Easterlings. The three types of hobbits migrated to the Shire at different times. The Followhides were first, and then the Harfoots, and last the Stoors came. Most hobbits lived in hobbit holes, but some, like the Stoors of the Marish, lived in roofed houses. By about 30 years later, nearly all hobbits in Middle-earth had moved to the Shire, but they were not completely independent. The Shire had been the hunting grounds of the King of Arthedain, and so the hobbits had to obtain official permission from King Argaleb II at Fornost in order to settle the lands. The King of the Remnants of Arnor gave them permission under three conditions. The hobbits would have to acknowledge the king's lordship, upkeep the road through their lands, and help his messengers that the king would send. The hobbits readily agreed to these terms, and so they considered themselves subjects of the King of Arthedain. Thus the hobbits even sent archers to help the king in great battles against Angmar, even though some historians among men find no tales of it. The hobbits claimed it was so. It's actually kind of a funny disagreement between the two races. Even after the fall of Arthedain, Angmar did not conquer the Shire. This is likely because the Shire was a small land. Its borders were guarded by the remaining Dunedain of the north, and Angmar was quickly defeated anyway. However, after the fall of Arthedain, the Shire was leaderless, so they established their own sovereign, called the Thane. Originally, the Thane had been a part of the Old Buck clan, the ancestors of Merry's family, but it came to be held by the Tooks, Pippin's family, who are related to Merry's family. As time went on, the Shire expanded, and the Old Bucks crossed the Marish and the Brandywine River in 2340 of the Third Age, and established Buckland on the borders of Breeland. There were many cities and locations in the Shire, such as Mickledelving on the White Downs, that was the capital town of the Shire, Bywater, Hobbiton, Tuckborough, and some others. Here is a map of the Shire from the Lord of the Rings Online, and really that game is the best way of viewing and interacting with the Shire in my opinion. As the Shire grew throughout the years, problems came with it too. A mere 35 years after the first hobbits had come to the Shire, the Great Plague that had been released upon Gondor hit the hobbits as well, and diminished their population. Many centuries into the future, in 2747 of the Third Age, the Shire was invaded by the goblins of Mount Graham, but they did not have a conquest as Bolrorar Took, Bilbo and Frodo's ancestor, killed Gulfimble, the leader of the goblin army, with his mighty club, knocking the goblin's head into a hole, winning the battle and creating the game of golf at the same time. Bolrorar Took was the first renowned military hero of the Shire, but the hobbits had other, more peaceful and elderly heroes as well, as peace and quiet and comfort were their main priorities. The woes of the Shire didn't end there, unfortunately. 11 years later, the long winter hit Middle-earth. Rohan suffered losses against the Dunlendings in the south, the Gondorians fought off the Haradrim and Corsairs, and the hobbits of the Shire succumbed to the cold by the thousands. This is when Gandalf first became affectionate towards the hobbits, however, as he saw their love, pity, and courage to help one another through those dark days. This catastrophe caused by the long winter would indirectly lead Gandalf to choose Bilbo for Thorin's company, because this is when he saw the true courage and resilience that hobbits have. Even through the famine, the days of dearth as they were called, that came after the long winter and lasted until 2760 of the Third Age, 10 years before Smaug attacked Erebor, the Hobbits endured. For many more years, the Hobbits lived in peace, and the Shire was untouched by evil, until 2911, when the fell winter came. Alike to the long winter, food ran short, but this time white wolves attacked the Shire, and the horn call of Buckland was sounded. The Hobbits defeated the wolves, and through the food that they received from Gandalf the Grey and the Dunedain Rangers, the Hobbits were once again saved. Bilbo Baggins had been 21 at that time, and his adventure came soon enough. 30 years later, Gandalf, who was always somewhat known in the Shire for his fireworks mostly, came to our future hero Bilbo one morning, and began the tale of the Hobbit. The 13 dwarves came also, and put Bilbo on the course of his adventure. Once Bilbo returned with the One Ring, the Shire was again put in danger. In 3018 of the Third Age, the Nazgul invaded the Shire, going as far as Hobbiton to find the One Ring, and the horn call of Buckland was once again heard by the Hobbits, as the Nazgul disrupted the peace in search of a Baggins. Once the Nazgul departed the bounds of the Shire, Saruman the White Wizard made his claim on the land. Many brigands and ruffians began to move into the Shire, and after the Dunedain were called south to aid Aragorn, Saruman, or Sharky as he was called, had no opposition. This was the final true test of the courage of hobbits, as the folk were oppressed, but saved by their heroes, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. The Battle of Bywater took place, and though the hobbits took some casualties, the Shire folk freed themselves and became warriors in their own right. After the battle, Frodo served as deputy mayor of the Shire for a time, and led the rebuilding process of the Shire before his old wounds forced him to retire. Years later, King Elisar of Gondor and Arnor set a law in the 6th year of the Fourth Age that full-sized men could not enter the Shire without permission, and the Shire was free land under the protection of Arnor. And so it was that Sam Gamgee was elected mayor of Mickle Delving, Peregrine Took became the Thane of Tuckborough, and Meriadoc Brandybuck became Master of Buckland, and the three hobbits led the Shire into a peaceful Fourth Age. The Shire is the quintessential land of peace in all of fiction, and it serves to remind us that home, cheer, friends, family, and compassion are most important in life. Though we may be faced with a few rough winters in our time, we shall always come back into the spring and the sunshine once more. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who you think would like to learn more about the Shire. Let me know what you think about the land of the Hobbits in the comments down below. Also, if you were to live in Middle-earth, where would you want to live? I think I would have to say the Shire, and I know my old gaffer would say the same. If you'd like to communicate with me more directly, please join us on Facebook and Twitter through the links in the description below, and make sure to subscribe to join the Men of the West and all free folk today. I will see you all soon with more Middle-earth content, but until then, thank you all for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one, my friends.